Hi, I'm Charlotte Davis. This is day 3 of me going through what I think are the very basic motor skill movements every child needs to have control of in order to be an efficient learner. And we're now moving on to primitive reflexes, and this is part of the absolute foundations of a child's functioning. And I think that it needs to be established in every early years programme. So primitive reflexes are the automatic movements a baby makes when it turns its head and its arm goes one way or the other. They have no conscious control over those movements. Those movements are useful for coming out of the birth canal. Those movements are useful for getting the child to flip from their back onto their tummy and start creeping and crawling. Those movements are useful for developing a crawling movement and gaining conscious control of the muscles. However, they are involuntary reflex actions. They originate in the nervous system and they shouldn't be present beyond infancy. However, quite a lot of people still have them. So the problem and consequences of having retained primitive reflexes, it can block efficient use of your motor skills, so you really can't work well with left and right sides of your body. It blocks the efficient use of sound, because in order to work with left and right, you start screwing up your body or tightening your jaw, and that affects your inner ear. You're not gaining, you haven't got good control, and that tightening up blocks your sound. It blocks your use of binocular vision, because some of the reflexes, like ATNR, you can't move your head separately to your body until it's integrated. And if you keep it, your eyes always jump at the midline. So if you're reading some text, your eyes are going to be jumping every time you go across your midline. It blocks your ability to self-soothe, so that if you've got a retained Moro, which is the startle reflex, you will go on being hyper alert throughout your adult life, and that isn't good for you. So you want to get them integrated. You want to be a confident child. You want to go on to be a confident adult. If your motor skills, your sound, your vision, and your anxiety are all being blocked, then you are going to struggle to be an efficient learner. You will not get what's called motor sensory integration, where your muscles and your sensory system work coherently together. So when you're reading, you are visualizing what you're reading. So when you're doing numbers, you can visualize pattern, and that's just not going to be in place. I work with primitive reflexes very much as a means to an end. They're a tool in the box. They enable me to get someone's vision or sound working properly, and I get them integrated, and I often keep going back and forth to them, same ones, just making sure they've fully mastered them, that every single bit of the overflow and the bad habits they've developed because of having them to a later age in place, that we get them fully sorted. But I am not an expert in primitive reflexes, and if you want to go and do training, there are good training providers, and one of which is the Rhythmic Movement international training courses, which are very well organised. But it's up to you. But it all works with sound, vision, motor skills. It doesn't operate in isolation. So as you can see, I regard primitive reflexes as the absolute foundation. We've got to get them sorted because we can't get everything else down the system sorted. However, the one thing you can do to help you is to use sound therapy. If you've got a child who's non-verbal and they've still got retained primitive reflexes, you're not going to be able to do much until you get them communicating with you. So do some sound therapy. If you've got children who are speaking to you, but they've still got retained reflexes, just using the sound therapy oils the system, it gets it all integrating quicker. So humans are designed to integrate, they're designed to develop on more than one system at a time. So you want to think about how it all works together and get it working together. As you can see, I use sound therapy to oil the whole system. The reflexes I'm going to cover in the next few days are number one, the spinal galant, and that's your muscles down your spine, and that affects how well you can control your spine. It also stops you doing things like having scoliosis if you get it sorted, and it affects your control of your bladder, so you're not going to wet yourself. The Moro reflex, which is the hyper-alert anxiety, it's your startle reflex. The asymmetric tonic neck reflex, which is this ability to turn your head separately to your body. The tonic labyrinth reflex, which is having the strength to support your spine and getting your eyes working on a good platform, your symmetrical tonic neck reflex, which is really consciously understanding top and bottom halves of the body, and finally the rooting and sucking reflexes, which are around children who have dribbly mouths and sucking their thumbs, and it's messy around the mouth, and that's because they still want to root. They still want to be sucking the breast. They've got the reflex to do that. For me, these reflexes are absolutely vital. If they're retained and the person doesn't work on them, it often blocks higher level work. Numbers 1 to 5, I personally would have embedded in any infant school curriculum and keep checking and checking and checking until we're absolutely certain all of them are properly integrated. It would have a massive effect on the skills, the competence, the development of our children. Number 6, I think, is quite hard to do in a school environment. Mothers could do it, or if the child's home situation is particularly challenged, then perhaps one classroom assistant could work with that child. But it's quite hard to do with the whole class. These are my contact details if you want to be assessed or you want to know more about what I'm doing. And those are the contact details if you want to get hold of sound therapy that you can do on your own without a lot of supervision. I will see you tomorrow. We'll start going on the spinal gland, and I will tell you how far you need to go in order to be really sure that it's integrated so that it will support sound, vision, and proper motor skills. Look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.